hey, we're back doing another top 5, dead or alive. But this time, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We're doing top 5 dead or alive movies.
We're doing movies this time. This is our top 5, as in my top 5 and then Apo's top 5.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, we'll say, you the viewer and, well, listener maybe will know if this is a two-parter, but I'm going to assume this is a two-parter.
I'm assuming it's going to be a two-parter.
So I've preemptively ranked my...
That's words.
That's words.
Yeah.
The movies, I've got 5. 3 of them are unranked, as in the bottom 3.
Yeah.
And then I've got top 2.
Yeah. I let me just tell you something, bro.
All right.
My 5 are in order.
Oh, they're in order.
They're in order.
Okay. Well, you do all yours in order.
But regardless of what it is, our top 2 are the top 2.
Top 2 are the top 2. Okay, cool. And then so in this video we'll do the 3, the bottom 3, and the next video we'll do the top 2 and honorable mentions.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
So if you are watching this, just know that there is the full version out right now.
No, it's not right now.
It's not right now on podcast?
No, because we're going to release it when we do both of them.
All right, we're
have
going to do
been
that.
released. It'll be
In a couple of weeks' time, you're going to see it, whenever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it again. There might be extended audio.
There probably won't be.
But that's
there'll probably be extended audio.
We got to get numbers to the.
Yeah. Sorry.
But if you were,
it's right at the end though, so you've got to listen. But it only makes sense because I've cut it up a little bit. So you got to,
If you are watching this on the YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you'd like to see in regards to the top 5 Dead or Alive series.
Just tell us what you want to see. We've got a man's there who keeps commenting and says to do burger videos, and we'll be doing one today. I don't know if it's probably already up by now, but
we got you. We got you is what we're saying.
All right.
Vincent, I'd like you to start.
You'd like me to start?
I'd like you to start because I'm excited because I don't know. I really don't know. I have a feeling about one of them, but I don't know where it sits.
What did you...
My thoughts are just because I brought up something previously in the previous podcast that we did.
Okay, yeah, I made. Well, let's start with that one.
Is that
because it's Interstellar?
Oh,
Interstellar is in there.
Yeah.
Apo is alluding to what we were talking about. They went international. They went Interstellar in the episode 8 of What If, the Marvel TV show. So check out that video if you haven't. And I did have a hint about that being one of my... I don't know if I said that in the video, but anyway, that's one of the movies.
That's one of the movies.
That's one of the movies. So Interstellar is one of the most amazing... It's actually the movie that made me write a list of just movies that make me feel all the things.
Yeah. See, this is why, just before you get into it, this is a reason why you need to start a blog of sorts. So then you even if you just do it on the backcatalog.com,
I have thought about that, but yeah, I've got too many things. I've got too many things going on.
I
already do too many things.
That's fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, we won't get into that, but we'll get into that later.
That's fair enough.
Anyway, so I have also... I'll just preface this with this top 5 list is my top 5 of all time at the moment. So I know that what I'm into at any given time is going to be different almost every week.
And just to tell you that when we first birthed this idea of doing the top 5 Dead or Alive movies, my list has changed multiple times.
Yeah,
because I've been like, hold on a second, that is a movie that I love, or I've rewatched a movie and been like, wait,
that's right. Yeah, so one of these that I've got is a recent rewatch, and I've gone, yeah, this is an amazing cinematic masterpiece. All right, it's Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. It's definitely not that. Anyway, so right now I'm in a real sci-fi mood. So there's only a couple sci-fis on here, but I think that skewed my perception of what I think are good movies when I wrote my shortlist, because my shortlist is there's like 20 movies on here.
Which is insane, but that's what you got to do. Yeah. You got to break it down.
And there's also, my partner was saying, you're never going to get this because you're always going to remember, oh, what about that movie? Because, they've been making movies.
Dude, since that time when they did the one with the train.
When they did the one with the train and everyone rocked out, they checked out the cinema because they thought the train was coming to them. It was in black and white, the grass was grey, but they thought maybe they just haven't watered it. Let me get out of here. So anyway.
Go on with the Interstellar. I want to hear about
Interstellar. So Interstellar is such an amazing movie. I mean, Christopher Nolan, bro. I've just realised there's a couple of Christopher Nolans on here.
Okay.
And,
So that gives me a bit of a hint.
That gives you a bit of a hint. And bro, honestly, it's just a movie where you watch it and it's so satisfying because it's not just non-stop action. It's not just non-stop drama. You've got the highs and the lows. So this is going to be spoilers for probably most of the movies
That's
on this
exactly
list.
Right, yeah.
Which I'll have it at the start of the you've already seen this. You don't need to know this. So, for example, they go to this. One of my favorite parts is when Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey go to the planet that's the water planet.
Yes.
It's just water. And they go, okay, this is one of the possibly habitable planets. They go on there. It's water.
Yeah.
It's just water. And they go there and it's just so serene because it's just in like not even shin high water. And they're standing there and they find the pod of the guy that was there and he's dead. He'd been dead. And they realize that, number one, time goes the time difference between the planet that they're on and back in the Earth and whatever is so crazy that, I don't know, it's like an hour on that planet is 5 years in the regular time.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's in that scene there's a ticking noise.
Yeah.
that is being heard, and that ticking noise is in reference to 1 year or 1 week.
That's right. Earth. Yeah. So Christopher Nolan, bro, he's put that in there.
Yeah,
he's put it in there. He's gone. You watch this after, and you know you go, what's that ticking noise? Mm-hmm. Man's just had a timer in his backpack. Nah. So and then there's the wave that's coming as well. So this planet just has the biggest waves you ever seen. Mm-hmm. So there's so much time pressure, but it's also the landscape is so calm until it kind of is then ramping up and they got to get out of there quickly and bro, it's insane.
The tension is heightened because there's the time element. They know that if they don't get back in time, the guy that's on the ship waiting for them to probably help them get into the ship will be dead.
Yeah.
If they take too long.
Yeah.
But also, if the wave happens, everyone's gone.
Yeah.
No one makes it out.
Oh man, when they get back to the ship and it's crazy and the man's old as hell.
Yeah.
Because it's been like 30 years.
And he says, it's been 30 years and I've been here by myself.
Lucky Netflix has got an extensive catalogue as well as Disney Plus, and I've purchased both of them.
Yeah. So
lucky.
And I listened to the back catalogue to get all the latest about Disney Plus.
That's right.
But just seeing that I mean, Christopher Nolan in that movie specifically does such a good job of creating this atmosphere and a different feel on each of the planets that they go to.
Yeah.
It's very much in the same, like it very much gives me, I mean, very different because Blade Runner 2049 is very colourful and bright, but it gives me the same feel as when I watch that movie where I'm just like, I'm in a different space and I'm enjoying all these spaces, but also all of these new spaces scare me.
Yeah.
Like the snow planet where they find Matt Damon.
I was about to say, yeah, that one there, because there's so many, I was just thinking that the movie is, I mean, it's a long movie. I'm pretty sure it's about 2.5 hours.
Yes.
But there's so many small little bits that you're going to this planet, and they're completely different, and it's almost a completely different story. Mm-hmm. They have the same objective of they got to find the pod that this place is, on or whatever, the habitable pod, and try and find the scientists there to see if the planet is actually habitable. But I mean, the Matt Damon one is wild because you're thinking, bro, it's Matt Damon. He's a good guy. Bro, he ain't a good guy.
No.
Which, I mean, I guess you're there alone by yourself for so long. He's alone by himself. Like, he's not alone with others.
That's right. But, and also, like, you have to add that another level of tension where it's also humans trying to, because it's not just, because at that point, humans are trying to do the best for the entirety of their population, not just for them.
Because they're just making corn. That's it.
That's all they could do.
That's all they can do.
But then in that situation, it shows the other side of humanity in which it's like sometimes we just got to do things for ourselves and it doesn't matter at what cost. Like I'll kill Matthew McConaughey to get what I want.
I'll kill Matthew McConaughey.
The part that I think we both enjoy about this movie is because we're men of meme culture. the Matthew McConaughey scene in which he's crying in front of the
That is, I mean, as much as a great meme that is one of the most heartbreaking scenes.
That's right. Yeah.
That I mean, because he's been on that planet for that long. He's going up there. He's been checking in with his daughter, his family, and then he just sees his whole family grow, his kids grow, but also their family kind of fall apart.
Mm-hmm. And he's not there to support
because his son is he's getting stressed because he's left, he's gone, he's got to fend for himself. Things aren't looking too good. Seriously, that just I'm just thinking about that. What a movie! And then at the end, when everything comes back around, I mean that's one thing about me is I love when you have an ending of the movie which relates to the start.
And you're saying figuratively and literally.
That's right.
Because the universe becomes like some, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, because they find out that the beings, these fifth dimension beings or whatever, I can't remember the actual thing, is actually them that they've just progressed to that time or whatever, which I think, I mean, look, you love it or hate it. It's not for everyone, but I think it's unreal. The thing that brought them to, I mean, it's just all a big cycle, and then the space station they make is a circle, and you're just like, bro, we got circles everywhere.
That's right. That's exactly right.
The circle of life.
The scene though, because there's the bookshelf scene in which Matthew McConaughey's character is doing some Morse code for Murph to see and to try to figure out what's going on. And the fact that, he's in that bookshelf behind it and he's just yelling, "Don't let me go. Don't let me." That is heartbreaking in itself. Even though
I'm getting shivers, right?
Even though he knows that he's going to do what's needed for humanity. He is looking back and realizing, even though he's done what's needed for humanity, he's left his family.
I know.
To do all the things that they had to do. And then when they have that moment at the end together when she's
dead, bro. She's
dying, right?
She's old as hell.
And he's her age when, he's the same age as he was when he left.
Yeah.
That scene, I think in that scene, I haven't watched it in a while, but the daughter sort of says like, I don't know if there's forgiveness in that scene or something like that, but it was a nice scene to end it off with.
It was a very satisfying movie.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I guess in saying that, we could have left that movie feeling upset about what happened, but that scene is good to allow the viewers to be like, okay, this was all meant for something in his world at least. Because you don't want your main character to have to just live with the harrowing sadness of knowing that you left your family to just.
But he left his family, and look what's become of the world.
That's right.
Because I think they were trying to, because they ended up solving the energy problem, the energy creation problem.
That was the whole big thing.
That was because the alternative to finding the planet was to get the space station up there and that kind of business.
Right. Okay.
But they didn't end up finding the planet. But because of that, the Morse code and whatever
didn't Anne Hathaway find a planet where she started to build life on?
Maybe she did. I can't remember.
Yeah, no, I believe that was part. But can I tell you something? My first viewing of this movie was in IMAX.
Oh,
and it was one of the wildest experiences ever because you know how there's just those big, those sort of shots of just space and the shuttle was just in there, but it's mainly space. Seeing that on an IMAX screen where you look from left to right and there's nothing but stars and light coming from certain areas, I was like, this feels like I'm there. It was one of the greatest movie-going experiences that I've ever had.
That is wild.
Yeah. So, Vince, have you got anything else to say about Interstellar?
What else I was going to say? Oh, the score of the movie. So the music. I'm pretty sure that's Hans Zimmer.
I was going to say, is this Hans Zimmer?
I think this was Hans.
Yeah,
right, Hans knows what's going on. I think the music and the orchestral scene that they set is such a big part, which I realize that has attributed to a few of the movies here. But man, it just, like you said, the ticking in the water world, not Wet and Wild. We're talking water world, just stuff like that. I mean, the score is just amazing.
Is this a movie that you, because I know you're a man that listens to music. Is this a movie that you have put on the playlist and you've just listened
I
to?
haven't. I've only been doing that recently though.
Oh, okay.
But I have been thinking about that for a different movie. So we'll get into that later.
We'll get into
so
that.
that's all. That's all I want to say about Interstellar.
Well, bro, I'm going to get into my number 5, but now that you've sort of said a bit of your piece, right?
Yeah.
I'm starting to click on some that I think might be coming up as in your top 5.
All right, we'll do your next one. So you do your first one, and then you can predict what my next ones are going to be.
So I'm doing 2019's very own Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Ah, interesting.
Now, there's some controversy around this.
I've never seen this.
Because it is a 2019 movie, right? And the controversy in that is like, how can you have enough time to really enjoy and love a movie in such a short time? But
time, bro. It's been 2 years.
But yeah, and it's been a long 2 years, let me tell you that much. But the reality is...
Look how much I've aged.
Now, bro, if you watch the start of the back catalogue to the end, you look the same. I don't.
That's
but
a shame.
I know, like, how's our career going to progress? So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a Quentin Tarantino movie, starring Brad Pitt and starring Leonardo DiCaprio. The reason that I think that this is... I got something here? Is that what you're doing?
No, I've just got an itch.
The reason that I think that this is this is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie and one of my favorite movies, but I don't think it's necessarily the best Quentin Tarantino movie. I'm going to say that up top. I would say that Inglourious Basterds is his best movie of all.
You reckon Inglourious Basterds?
100%.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why Inglourious Basterds is the best movie. Because at the end he says, I think this might be my masterpiece. And every time I see it, I'm like, bro, you might be right. No, I think Inglourious Basterds is a great movie and just all the characters in that are amazing. And it's a movie that I could watch, similarly to all these movies, it's a movie that I could watch 1,000,000 times but see something different in it that I enjoy. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is, and this is another reason why it might be shrouded in controversy between you and I when I bring this up, because who else is watching, is because the reason that I love it so much is because it has sentimental value to me as a human being.
Hey, that's important.
And that is important. So I do love the movie, and I think that it is one of his best, and I also think obviously it's one of my best, like, favorite movies of all time. The characters, because it's set in the 60s in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's set early in those like the same era as the Clint Eastwoods of the world, when he was coming up, where he wasn't a man who was making it. He was sort of not being used as to the way that he wanted in America, so he had to go overseas and create those spaghetti westerns, which are now some of the best movies of all time. You know, the Good, the Bad, and the Uglies and whatnot. So it's set in that era, and part of the reason I love it is because when you're in a specific period of time. And it's a set piece where there's the clothing, there's the cars, there's the buildings. I just love to look at that.
Yeah, look, it makes for good cinema.
100%. But also it makes for a movie that you can put on in the background of a party.
You love it. That's one thing that I know of you, is that you love that, dude, as a metric for how good something is.
If I go to a party and they're playing era-specific music, or even not, it doesn't even have to be era-specific music, but if they're playing music and in the background there's a projector and they've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood playing with no sound on, I'm enjoying that party. I think it adds to the atmosphere, but also you're like, look, I can just see Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt on screen, you know?
Next time I have, I don't know, people at my house, you keep going.
Next time you have me at your house.
Yeah, I'll just put some movie on and...
Yeah, no, we'll do it.
I'll come to your house. I'll do it.
I'll do it, I promise. We can do it now. Like, we'll go after. I think the reason I love it a lot is because I love films that feature a really tight relationship between, it can be two men, but when there's a bromance of sorts between two men, I love that. And I love that in this movie specifically, Brad Pitt is Leonardo DiCaprio's stuntman. But also, as Leonardo DiCaprio's life sort of starts to fall apart in different ways, he also becomes his driver and the person who's just there to look after him and pick up the pieces when they fall.
Yeah.
Even though Cliff Booth, who is Brad Pitt, is not a good man necessarily and hasn't got his life sorted either. His world is just supporting Leonardo DiCaprio to be the best Leonardo DiCaprio that he can be.
Hey, but that's all right. You know, sometimes you need to put the pieces together of someone else's life before you can put the pieces together of your own.
Yeah. And in doing that, when they have this type romance, you know, there's parts where Leonardo DiCaprio is crying. There's parts where they're just sitting out a bar. They just look like they're just totally like wasting away. Those little scenes where I'm like, at least they still got each other, just make my heart warm. Right? So that's one of the reasons I love it. The other reason is because I think that this is Leonardo DiCaprio's best role that he's done. It reaches close to Wolf of Wall Street, because I think that is one of his best roles as well.
Yeah.
You know, The Revenant was good, but I don't think he deserved the Oscar over the other movies that he's done. I think it was just circumstantial that he, you know, they're like, we couldn't give him for this one, we're going to give you for The Revenant just to make up for it.
Look, all the other actors did trash this year, so we're going to give it to you by default.
I think that his performance in this movie is one of the best. And one of the reasons for that is there's a scene. Have you watched this movie?
No.
Okay. Well, there's this scene where he's on set of a movie and he keeps forgetting his lines, or it's of a TV show, and he's playing the bad guy in this TV show. And Timothy Olyphant, he's in the movie, and you know, when you see Timothy Olyphant in a movie, that's a tick for me. But he keeps forgetting his lines, so he goes back to his trailer and he's getting angry at himself. And he's yelling at himself and he's saying, you know, you're the reason that you've messed up. You know, drinking that many margaritas yesterday is one of the reasons that this has happened. He's getting really angry at himself. And then he goes on set after that and he gives the best performance that he's ever given. And this girl that's on set says, like, you're the best actor that I've ever seen. And you see this light in Leonardo DiCaprio's eyes and you're just like, he's building himself back up.
Yeah.
He was the man. He's now going to start becoming the man again. And unfortunately, he doesn't become the man in the States, but he goes overseas and becomes a man.
Okay.
The other great thing about it is, similarly to many of Quentin Tarantino movies, there's violence. There's violence which is over the top.
Yeah. And
it's over the top to the point where it becomes hilarious. You know, we talk about the scene in Pulp Fiction, in which they're driving down the road, they go over the speed bump, John Travolta shoots that man in the head and his brains just you know, go everywhere. We talk about the scene in the movie theater in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
When he's just they're just mowing down Nazis.
Yeah, or when Django shoots, I think it's Samuel, and he shoots him and just shoots backwards.
That's right. When he the characters that just go flying, that lady that walks into the room just gets flown backwards. You see all those scenes and they're over the top. But they're over the top for a reason. They're not over the top just because they want to create shock value. They're over the top because they want to bring out something that Quentin Tarantino had when he watched all these exploitive films when he was growing up. There's a scene in this in which there's links to the Manson family and the Manson murders in this movie. And there's a scene in which they go to the wrong house to kill. They want to go kill the people who they actually killed in real history, but they end up going to Leonardo DiCaprio's house. And the hilarity that comes from that point, like, one, you laugh and your head off, even though it's the most shocking that you've seen in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh.
Like, we were talking about stones earlier. Man's stones get bitten off by a dog. Like, one man's stones are getting bitten by a dog. It all results in this climax in which this one lady runs through a window, falls into the pool that Leonardo DiCaprio was in. So Leonardo DiCaprio gets out a flamethrower, which the only reason he had it was because he did this movie where he was this Nazi killer who had a flamethrower.
So they said, yeah, you can take this home, bro.
You can keep it. And it's one of the funniest scenes in movie history, but it is also this great climax to this movie that didn't need any violence at all. It didn't need any of it. But Quentin Tarantino was just like, look, this is what the people want. And he did that.
They see Quentin Tarantino as a director. They expect the violence.
You walk in there and you expect violence. A lot of people say that is their favorite part of the movie. And they say that this is one of Quentin Tarantino's worst movies because it is a movie that is slow. And it's a movie that is meandering. It's a movie that...
Well, so was Hateful Eight. That was pretty slow, wasn't it?
He was. Hateful Eight was I didn't really like Hateful Eight as much, but the fact that it's set up to be like a stage play is what makes that movie great. And the fact that it is so like they're all cramped in together, and then you know any one of them could be the killer.
Yeah.
But to show you why sometimes slowing things down is really, really important, even in a Quentin Tarantino movie. There's a part where they go to this ranch where like the Manson family live, essentially. And Cliff Booth, who's Brad Pitt, he goes into this house because he's like, I know the person that owns this place. And I know that he's still here, so I'm going to make sure that he's all right. As he's walking into the house, you know, he sees this lady and she says, this man's in the back. And the person's watching something on TV, which is like an old horror movie. So the sound from the violins, the strings, the build-up of tension from that movie that's going on screen is also working for the audience who's watching Brad Pitt move through it, and he's moving through so slowly. And the music's building and building and building. And you think that Brad Pitt's going to die. Or you don't know what's going to happen. In the end, he ends up finding the person that he was... Nothing happens of it. But it is such a tense scene.
Yeah.
And such an amazing scene that shows sometimes you just got to slow things down. Even in a movie where you've got Quentin Tarantino directing, just to show how good the director really is. That's why I think it's my number 5. We'll say there's one qualm though.
What?
I don't like when they beat up Bruce Lee. Like Bruce Lee gets beaten up in this movie.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And they make Bruce Lee seem a little bit cockier than he probably was in real life. But other than that, that's my number 5.
That's number 5. I'm going to have to watch that movie because I ain't never watched that movie before.
Dude, we can watch it together, man. I've
I
watched
think
it
it's
that many
the
times.
only Quentin Tarantino movie I haven't seen. I think I've seen all the other ones.
I think we've seen a few of them together.
Mm.
I think we've seen Django and Hateful Eight. I think we've seen them together.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's 2 out of however many he's got.
9?
9, I would assume, because Hateful Eight.
It was the 8. Yeah. He made it easy for us.
He made it easy.
He made it easy for us. All right, so do you want to guess what might be?
I don't want to accidentally guess your number 1, but I'm going to say that Inception will be on this list, and also Blade Runner could be on this list.
That's interesting.
That's interesting for you,
That's
isn't
interesting.
it?
That's interesting for me. Because you was thinking Christopher Nolan.
I was thinking Christopher Nolan, because I'm pretty sure you said there's another Christopher Nolan on this list.
There is. Do you want me to get into that one?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Because it's not Inception.
I'm excited to hear what
it's The Dark Knight.
Oh, of course.
Of course, right. Come on, of course.
Dude, why, I was thinking more his sci-fi things, but I missed out one of the greatest.
Nah, I mean Inception was on my short list. I think. Yep. But no, it's not on the top 5 because that spot
Knight.
there is occupied by The Dark Knight.
Man, great movie.
Which is still to this day probably one of the best superhero movies ever.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that makes it so great is that there's no actual superpowers in this. Everyone's just a person. Mm-hmm. Everyone's just a regular person. One of them's just got a lot of money. One of them's, clinically insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of them just had a bad day.
A very bad day.
A very bad day.
A very bad day.
And I think the Dark Knight, as in he's the Dark Knight and Harvey Dent's the White Knight, I think that is one of the things that makes the movie so good, as in Harvey Dent was the hope for Gotham being a bit of a scumbag city.
Yeah.
And the Joker's whole plan was to turn him evil, essentially, and turn him against all what he stood for. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just seeing that progression from Harvey Dent as a character was amazing. Yeah. And I think every character in the film is such an integral part of the overall film, and they all have their own part that they play, and that is really beneficial to the entirety of the film. Like, I mean, Heath Ledger is the Joker. You can't tell me that's not the best Joker performance. Sorry, Joaquin Phoenix. But
yeah, Joaquin, I'm sorry. Jared Leto, I'm sorry, bro.
I mean, Jared Leto was never in the running, but honestly, Heath Ledger as the Joker, because it's terrifying, but it also seems like a more realistic version of what the Joker would be. I think, I mean, obviously it's not realistic, but I think that he played that role to perfection.
Yeah, and it's especially with there's the, I don't know if this is actually something that Christopher Nolan said, but there's the idea that the Joker was a man who was part of the military, who experienced things overseas and then was brought back but was never rehabilitated.
Yeah, there were hints to that, weren't there?
And that's why I think, are there hints to it, or was it just something that someone had said?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, he's obviously, his mental health is probably low percentages.
That's right. Yes.
But I mean, not only the Joker, but also Harvey Dent before and after.
Yeah.
The incident that he's got half his face. I mean,
I know. The like, I love seeing that scene when the person pulls out the gun on him.
Yeah.
And he snatches the gun from his hands, and people are like, is he Batman? Is he the man behind the mask? And he's like, no, this is another guy who's going to do, even though Batman's doing a lot of good, this is a guy that's going to do more than that.
That's right.
This is a guy that, as you said, is going to bring Gotham from where they are now in the slums and bring them out of that. And when I say in the slums, not because they're a poor city, but because they're a city riddled with crime.
Corrupt city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And he comes out as, oh yeah, I'm Batman and whatever. And also I think one of the great things about Harvey Dent is that Bruce Wayne is thinking he's doing good things for the city. But Harvey Dent is the true one of the example of what person you need to bring the city out of the dirt, essentially.
A vigilante is going to stop people from doing the crime at that moment, but they're not going to be the ones that stop it from the get-go.
No, that's right. And you can only get so far with violence.
That's right. And they're not going to be the people that build up the youth of that city to become better people, whereas someone within that role that Harvey Dent has could potentially do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, also Batman is just killer in this movie.
Yeah.
Christian Bale as Batman has been my favorite. And I mean,
the opening scene when the Scarecrow is back and the other Batmen are coming in, how there's other people who are dressing up as Batman and sort of saying, if you can do it, why can't we? You know,
bro, look how much money I've got. He's just there with dollar bills. He's just there with Benjamins. Bro, have you seen these?
I love that bit where he's looking and he sees the van going down, and he's doing the simulations in his head, and he just jumps down and lands and squashes the van.
Man,
that's when you talk about superhero, like the superhero jump or the superhero landing, that is the best one that's ever been done.
100%. 100%. That's amazing. I mean, yeah, just Batman in this movie is just amazing because I like how, I mean, this is just kind of a bit of a trait of Batman is he gets knocked down a fair bit because at the end of the day, he's just a regular dude.
Yeah.
With Benjamins in his pocket. You know, he'll get shot and he'd just be like, oh, thank God for the Benjamins. my stack of hundreds. They just got a bullet hole. But it's all right, I got another one in this pocket.
That's
and
right.
He just moves it over. I mean, Alfred, Michael Caine, unbelievable.
Yeah, he is unbelievable. I would say that his best line, obviously he said some men want to watch the world burn, but his best line comes in, or his best moment I think comes in The Dark Knight Rises, where he says to Bruce Wayne, like, I don't want to see you here.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you dying. I want to see you, I want to be in France and be at a table.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I thought that was the...
Yeah, no, Michael Caine is one of the best to ever do it, acting-wise, but also one of the best Alfreds that we have seen.
On screen, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Jim Gordon.
Not the best. Jim Gordon,
Commissioner Gordon.
Dude.
I mean, that's with when his kids get taken by Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
There's just so many parts of this movie that are amazing, and again, the score of this movie, far out. I mean, you got Batman, you got the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What do you think of that Batmobile versus...
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It fits the narrative that they've got going.
Yeah.
You know, it's a more down to earth Batman movie, if you can say one's down to earth. As in, it's more grounded.
Yeah.
Whereas the other Batman movies, they're very a bit more over the top. They're more superhero flair kind of thing.
But they are of like, as you said, they fit within that universe.
That's
like
right.
The Tim
That's
Burton
right.
Batman.
It's a comic book movie.
That's right. But
This is like an action drama almost.
Yeah. And also there's links to military. The fact that, you know, what's old mate's name? Mr. Fox?
Mr. Fox.
Lucius Fox.
Oh, the
What's the actor's name?
Oh, I don't know.
Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Morgan Freeman. Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, he is, you know, he's a part of like I'm pretty sure his R&D team have something to do with the military. Or,
Yeah.
you know,
they had military contracts.
So the fact that the Batmobile looks like a tank, looks like something that the military
it's just got a paint job.
It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, man, Lucius. The one qualm that I have with the Dark Knight movies is that you have such a good, like Christian Bale is such a good Batman, but his detective work,
Yeah, no,
you don't get as much of that.
Yeah, which is a shame because that's, you know, he's the world's greatest detective. That's
Like,
Batman.
I've been reading the comic book that you gave me months ago, but I've only just got to it.
City of Ours.
Is it the Court of Owls?
Court of Ours. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the next one's a City of Ours, maybe.
And yeah, I've just been reading that part one, and the detective work's
It's mostly
behind
just
everything.
detective work.
So good.
We're gonna do. Yeah, we could talk about that when you finish that.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
But that is something that I think that is not done as well. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good movie.
no, that's right.
It just means that there's other things that they focused more on, which were great.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So that's my fourth favorite movie of all time.
in just before we move off of that, are you a fan of the Batman Begins and the Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, I love the whole trilogy. I love that. Batman Begins. I love origin stories.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, bro, you give me just origin stories, and they're slightly different. I love them.
But that's one of the best, though.
That's one of the best. That is one of the best. And Dark Knight Rises. I love Dark Knight Rises.
I love Dark Knight
That's
Rises as
amazing
well.
because Ra's al Ghul, bro, is back, but it's a she. You don't expect it.
No, you don't.
She's been there for the whole time.
She's been there.
She's been liaising.
You thought she was good. You thought she was going to go do good things for the city. But she didn't.
Just the whole, anyway, we don't have to talk about that because...
Also, just before we get into my number 4, I forgot to mention I got show and tell things.
You got show and tell things.
Another reason I love. Another reason I love.
Oh, I forgot to say. I thought you were going to wear that.
Right, no, I should have. But another reason I love. Can they see that in that camera there?
Yeah.
Another reason I love the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movies because good friend of me and friend of the show, like he stopped listening to after we did what's the one with Charlize Theron and the big gorilla?
Oh,
Mighty Joe Young.
Mighty Joe Young.
He stopped listening after that, but still, he's friend of me. My friend Jack got me this T-shirt, which is actually from the set, like the rap party of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Which is wild.
And everyone was like, "Oh, dude, you got to frame that. You got to keep that. That'll be worth,
bro, it's worth money."
And it's just like this is the one thing that the reason why I like wearing that, and I like wearing it. I'll go work out in it.
Yeah,
I'll go to events in it. I'll use it anywhere. It's because this has a story behind it for me.
Yeah,
this has a sentimental story. This is a friend gave it to me.
Every time you put it on, you're reminded of that.
You're reminded of that.
I probably wouldn't work out in it, but I'd do.
I'll do all sorts of workouts in it. I'll do boxing workouts. I'll do climbing workouts.
That's wild.
This would be a T-shirt that I'll have
until it's just a single thread.
Until it's a single thread, and hopefully that single thread is a piece of Quentin Tarantino's face, which was here. But also, it got me thinking the other day. We should just do a one-off run of
T-shirts
of just us, like just for two of us.
Yeah.
Because it has Quentin Tarantino's face. It says Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It should be our childhood photos.
Yeah.
You have one of your face. I have one of my face. Or
vice versa.
Vice versa. And it says Once Upon a Time in the back catalogue. And then on the back here, it says, "This is why we love making movies."
This is why we love making podcasts.
No, we just put a quote of ours.
Oh, okay.
A specific quote. And we just have those as our own, like, this is our podcasting T-shirt.
And just say, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
That'll be the quote. All right, give me your number 4.
So,
because you've ranked these, so give me.
I have ranked these. Now, you'll start to see a bit of a trend in what goes on with my next couple because you know very well that I'm a man of horror movies.
Ah, yes.
So,
is it Evil Dead?
It is not Evil Dead. It is not Evil Dead 2,
okay.
which was on the short list, which is one of my favorite movies of the time.
Evil Dead.
But this is 1978's very own Halloween. We're talking John Carpenter's very own, the original Halloween.
That's Freddy, isn't it?
No, this is Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. That's the dude with the knives for the hands.
Freddy Krueger is the dude with the knife for the hands. Michael Myers is the dude with the white.
Oh, he's the mask guy.
The white mask. He's just stalking babysitters, right? That's what this premise of this movie is.
Okay.
So the idea of this movie is, just to give a quick plot of this. The idea is that Michael Myers was a kid. Everything seemed well. The whole family seemed happy. It was Halloween. Parents are out at a party. Michael Myers, he's there. He's got his sister there. He's ready to do some Halloween things. He's ready to go out. He's ready to get some candy. He's going to do all the things that kids do. Now, that night, he ends up murdering his sister, and then he gets put into they call it a mental asylum in the things, because they're not using it. It's the 70s. They're not using the appropriate words to make the people within there feel like real people.
Yeah.
Later, I can't remember how many years later, but a certain amount of years later, he then breaks out of there and he goes back to his old hometown.
Was there a reason why he killed his sister? Or he was just mentally unwell?
So there's this.
What's the film theory?
Well, no, there's his the person who's supporting him, who says, "I looked into his eyes and I saw nothing but darkness. I saw nothing but evil. There's no reason that he did that. He's just an evil person who is just looking to kill people. No reason for it. He's just pure evil."
Yeah.
Right? Now, he ends up going back to Haddonfield, which is the place that he grew up in, and he wants to kill people in that space. And the people that he chooses is just at random. He just happens to see a lady who comes past, who happens to be Jamie Lee Curtis, who's a classic. When you talk about some of the most classic people in horror movies, but just in movies in general, we're talking Freaky Friday, Jamie Lee Curtis. We're talking Knives Out, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh yeah, I know the lady you're talking about.
We're talking True Lies, JamieLee Curtis. We're talking that movie with Eddie Murphy and he's trading places.
Hold on, let me guess. Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right, Jamie Lee Curtis.
One of the greatest actors of all time, but also one of the quintessential and one of the original Scream queens.
Okay.
Right? The reason that I love this movie so much is because when I was growing up, my dad would always tell me about these horror movies that he grew up watching. And he'd always tell me about them he told me about them at an age where I couldn't watch them, but he'd sort of say, one day we'll watch these together. And one of the ones was Halloween. And this was one of the ones that scared me the most. Not because Michael Myers is that scary of an individual. Like he looks sort of scary. He's got that white mask and everything, and he's got the trench coat. But there is something about him that is real. So he's not Freddy Krueger. He doesn't come into your dreams. It's not Jason Voorhees.
He's just the guy that just kills him.
He's just a guy that is at that point where he's just like, I can kill people and I'm strong enough to do it.
Does he have a residence, or where's he?
He's just walking, man. That's his residence.
Is
that what you mean?
As in, does he always wear the mask?
He always wears, well, unless it gets pulled off, which it does at points.
He's wearing the mask unless he's not wearing the mask, and then he's not wearing the mask.
I mean, initially he wasn't.
No, but I'm
wearing
saying,
the mask.
I'm assuming he's killing people at night.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what is he doing during the day? Does he just sleep during the day?
No. He'll stalk people during the day.
Okay, so he's just on the job.
Yeah, he's just on the job, bro.
Okay.
So there's a scene in which he's stalking Jamie Lee Curtis, and he's just popping up in random places. There's this one amazing shot of Jamie Lee Curtis. She's in her bedroom, and she looks out the window, and he's standing there. But like there's like a clothesline, and there's all the sheets, they're like flowing in the wind, and he's just standing there looking directly at her.
In the sheets.
In the sheets. Like he's wrapped up. He's cuddled up in the sheets. No, he's standing there. And the scariest thing about that is he stalked his prey so much that he knows exactly where they are at any point. So he knows that he can't see Jamie Lee Curtis in there necessarily, but he knows that when she looks out that window, he's going to be looking at her because he knows she's going to go there.
Neighbours just sees him in there. Right, hey man, you all right there? Yeah, no, because it's the whole thing. When she looks out, she'll see me. It's all right. No.
She's the prey. I'm the predator. It's
a whole thing.
It's motifs and whatnot. The music in this movie, John Carpenter was one of the best to ever do it, and he's one of the. I think he's still alive. But the music in this movie, including the original Halloween theme, give me like goosebumps, not scared goosebumps, but just like I'm excited whenever I hear it. Whenever I hear that theme, I'm like, this is going to be a movie that I enjoy, regardless of whether it's Halloween 1, which is the one that I just said, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, whether it's The Curse of Michael Myers. 3? Well, the funny thing is, so Halloween 3 is a completely different movie.
Oh, okay.
The only reason it involves Michael Myers is because within that movie, the movie Halloween exists. So within that movie, someone's watching TV and it says, this October, tune in for Halloween. And like Michael Myers is on the TV.
Oh, okay.
But it has nothing to do with Michael Myers at all. The reason that they did it was they're like, should we just go away from Michael Myers and try to make an anthology of like horror movies here and different stories?
No. We're going back to Michael Myers. Halloween 4.
In saying that, Halloween 3 is a great movie as well.
Okay.
The other ones are not good movies necessarily, but they're fun.
Okay.
And the mask is never as good as it is in the first movie. The character is less scary each time. He sort of becomes hilarious in some of them. Like, for example, in The Return of Michael Myers, at one point he pops up and he's got a pink mask and blonde hair. Just for a split second. And the director, I was reading up on it, the director's like, I thought people didn't notice, but it turns out they did.
Right, I made a bet and I lost.
The movie's also sparked, obviously, countless number of sequels, but it has also sparked a remake with Rob Zombie's remake, which is like if you like grotesque things, that's the one for you. Like if you just want to see, what if Michael Myers was actually from a really abusive family and things were really dark and rough, like that's the movie for you. Then it also sparked the reboot, which is a series that is coming out now. So the reboot was a couple of years ago. Halloween came out. I think maybe 2018, 2019. They've got one coming out this year, and then they've got another one coming out.
Bro, that's a lot of movies.
Yeah. So
Michael Myers is a hot property.
Michael Myers is a hot property, and I think that the reason for that is because of what this first movie did and what this first movie continues to do. When you go and watch that, you know how sometimes you go and watch old horror movies and they're like, this is hilarious? This is not a movie that's hilarious. This is a movie that is still good and still holds up to this day.
Yeah.
Because they kept everything. Obviously, there was no need for CGI in it because he's not like some interdimensional being or something. But the idea of young people being stalked by this killer who's just out there to kill is an idea that people can still be scared of today. Like when you
how great is that?
When you see Freddy Krueger, you're like, yeah, okay, he's a man that kills you in your dreams. Like,
I just don't go to sleep.
I'll just dream of something else, I'm a lucid dreamer.
Hold on, it's Freddy. Nah, bro, I'm not going through that door.
A reason I also like this, like I'm a big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. The reason I like the character of Michael Myers more than Freddy Krueger is because as the movies progress in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, they try to give Freddy Krueger like a personality and things like that. And they try to make him the main character. But the reality is he's a person who killed and assaulted children back in the first movie, and then you want to be his mate in the third movie. Whereas Michael Myers, he just stays the same. He just stays hunting people and killing people in different ways. I think it is one of the greatest, not only movies of all time, but definitely a horror movie that sparked a generation of what we know and love as horror movies today. That's why it's my number 4.
Bro,
no, sorry, I went.
No, that's all right. I'm just yawning because, bro, I had a late night last night. Daylight savings and whatnot.
Dude, it messed you up, didn't it?
Messed me up. All right. I realize this is going to be like an hour, so I don't know if we're going to split this up into the three parts. But
no, we'll just do 2. Like an hour's fine. An hour's fine.
All right. So my third, number 3 on my list.
This is the last one for your list. Let's not get into number 2s today.
No, we're not getting number 2.
We might accidentally make that mistake again.
That's right. We might accidentally make that mistake. All right. So you're not going to get this one. This is going to be an odd one, I think. Okay. So it is Imitation Game or The Imitation Game. I actually can't remember if it's The Imitation Game or Imitation Game. I think it's just Imitation Game.
This is starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
This is starring, Benedict Cucumber, if you will. One of the greatest to ever do it.
He is, yeah.
One of the greatest names to ever be written on paper.
100%. Like you write that name down, you're like, this guy's regal, or he's going to be one of the greatest actors of all time.
And he did one of those things.
He did one of those things.
Now, have you seen Imitation Game?
No, but you've told me about it.
Yeah.
But I'd like you to tell me more about it.
Well, Imitation Game is based on the true story of the Enigma code in World War II, I think. I'll be wrong in a lot of historical facts, but it's roughly what it is a bunch of people, a bunch of mathematicians, statisticians, and I guess future computer scientists had to break the code that the Germans were using to send messages. And basically it's the story of Alan Turing.
That's his name, yeah.
That's his name, Benedict Cumberbatch's character, who is I don't know what he is, what his profession is before. I think he's a mathematician or something. And I should have read up a bit on this.
That's right,
not to do any disservice to Alan Turing as a individual. And they have to crack the code. And basically Alan Turing's idea is to not use manpower or human power, to break the code, as in just like brute force and try, because the code changes every day. And so they have to try and get the code every single day and it changes. So they've got literally 24 hours to crack it. Otherwise then their work is basically worthless. There's no point. So Alan Turing's idea is forget trying to spend all our time and effort on cracking the code and actually build something that can take in inputs as the code and it'll find out the code and decode it. So essentially the movie is amazing because it just shows Alan Turing as the father of modern computing, which I mean, yeah, bro, you look around this room, there's computers. I do computing things for a living.
Is that something to do with computers
bro,
behind
that's
me?
something to do with, that's absolutely, that's a graphics card.
Dude, that's wild.
Which
that's
Alan Turing didn't do any of that, but...
No.
So he essentially created the first computer. And the movie's amazing because he's... I mean, I don't know if it's 100% factual, but I don't think he's neurotypical.
Right.
So he has a hard time interacting with his peers and they find him pretty off-putting at the start because he just wants to build his computer and he's not really easy to get along with.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of saying, bro, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're wasting our time. And everyone's getting upset with him. He's still doing it. I don't know why I'm explaining the plot of this movie.
That's right. You'll
just
get into why you...
Anyway, it's a great movie because it just shows the story of Alan Turing, who is one of the greatest people to have ever lived. Because without him, we wouldn't have this podcast. We might, but it might be broadcast over, like AM radio waves.
Yeah.
But
also for what he did in World War II.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Which, I mean, number one, the cracking of the code, which they cracked the code, I mean, late in the movie, but not that late. But one of the most interesting things is they couldn't just crack the code as, hey, we know the code, we know how to crack it, we know the formula that they use to crack the code. Let's save everyone, we can decode all the messages, because then they'll just change how they decode it. So they actually had to selectively say, okay, this response from our troops will be the most likely, so we can save these, but these people actually, we have to leave them and they'll just die.
Oh man.
And one of the people that is there with Alan Turing building it, his brother, he finds out it's one of his brother's battalions that's going to be wiped out, and he's going, we can save them, but then it might allude to the Nazis that, right, we know the code.
That's right, yeah.
But I mean, the movie's it's a very emotional movie because Alan Turing is just having hardships all throughout his life. He is. It actually starts really interestingly. It starts as him being interrogated by the police after, years after the war, because he gets arrested for indecent conduct or whatever the thing is. Essentially, he's a homosexual man.
That's what I'd heard about this.
Yeah, so he gets arrested for something like that, or they're trying to find out. The constable or whatever is going, hey, this guy's, something's going on. This guy's dodgy. So they're trying to find out, and they see all the computer and things, because at that point he's trying to continue his work and research, and he's got the computer, this huge thing in his living room.
Yeah.
And so it starts like that, and then it goes through the movie, and then at the end it goes to him telling them, hey, this is the story that I'm not supposed to tell you, whatever. And he actually gets chemical castration.
Oh man.
Which is sad, because then he's trying to work on his computer, but the chemicals are messing up with his brain, so he can't focus. And he ends up committing suicide, which is, tragic. And
this is all like
that's true. That's 100%. That's 100% factual. Yeah. But yeah, it's Keira Knightley's in this movie. Yeah. She's great in this movie because she actually marries Alan Turing, and she knows that she's happy to just be with him for his mind, which is beautiful. And then it's really sad at the end.
So even though this is a man that supported everyone,
he did so many good things for not only his country but the entire world, and not only just for what he helped with the war, which was probably one of the factors that helped win the war, but also what he did for modern computing. And just the story, that whole story. I mean, I explained most of the story, but I think,
but it's a harrowing story, which it's one of those things where you watch it, and even though, like, for you find enjoyment in seeing probably some of the background stuff, some of the computer science talk, right?
It's not. I mean, look, nothing that is talked about in the movie or that he even did is anything that I know about, because it's just so low level. Because it's the beginnings.
Yeah, but for you as well.
But I think I appreciate it because of that. So
I was going to say, it's also one of those exercises in sadness in which you actually go in there and you experience those emotions, so then you can learn something from those emotions. And sometimes you just need to watch a sad movie just to make yourself feel something that's different. Put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah, and I realized that most of the description of this movie, I just
said the plot.
I just said the plot.
Said it all.
But I think that's the main thing that draws me to this movie. It's just an amazing story. And no, it's not. It's based on a true story, so it's not like someone's made it up, which I think makes it even more intense and more powerful. And it's just. I mean, look, it's just an amazing movie.
And it seems like that way to me. Just a man who's heard everything about it.
Yeah. In
about 7 minutes. It does sound like a movie that I'd like to see, and it's good that there's a movie that I haven't seen that is on your top 5, because that gives me some homework to do.
Yes.
Vincent, I'm going to get into my top 3, and then this video is done for the people.
That's right.
For the people on YouTube right now. So this movie is one that wasn't initially on the list, but upon a rewatch, I was like, how did
recent rewatch? Is that what okay.
How did this not come on my list? How did this not have this spot from the start? And that is 1999's very own The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser.
The Mummy.
So
this is another movie I haven't seen.
You haven't seen?
I haven't seen The Mummy.
Oh my goodness!
No, I haven't seen The Mummy.
Okay, I don't want to. I'm not going to spoil The Mummy as much. I'm just going to give you.
Okay, give me the good points.
I'm going to give you what I love about this.
All
movie.
right, give me what you love about it.
Growing up, I was a big Brendan Fraser fan. Mainly, the first movie I watched of him was George of the Jungle. Because I was a man who loved all things animal. I had Mighty Joe Young on video. I had it on VHS. I enjoyed The Lion King. So when you see a man named George and he's of the jungle, you're thinking, this is exactly what I need. This is a man in that situation within the jungle. He is one of the apes.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, Brendan Fraser is obviously one of the most hilarious
I need to follow him wherever he goes.
Literally, wherever
if he journeys to the center of the earth, I'm here with him.
And he did, and I was there with him, I was there with him. I've been there along the whole way. I've seen Monkey Bones, which is a movie that I don't think many people have seen. And I don't even know if it's actually called Monkey Bones.
I've never even heard of that movie.
But I've seen Bedazzled. Great movie. So The Mummy, this is a remake. So many, many years ago, Universal, which is a studio that we know and love today, the Globe.
Yep.
They created the monster universe, right? And the Universal Monsters universe is like the initial, Bela Lugosi's Dracula. It's Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. Have you seen that poster that I've got in my room? Or
no.
You haven't been in my room as of late.
No.
I've only just invited you into my room. Like, look at all these bare walls, except for this one,
this one memorabilia.
this one piece of memorabilia. You know, it's got the Bride of Frankenstein. It has the original Mummy, also starring Boris Karloff. This is a remake of that. And now you look at a lot of those classics and you see their remakes. They don't always end up being as good as the classics were. This is a movie that far outweighs the classic, in my opinion.
You've seen the classic?
I've seen the classic. My dad actually purchased, as I said, my dad's a big proponent of the reason that I love horror movies.
Okay.
He bought me on Blu-ray many moons ago for my birthday. He bought me all the classic monster movies.
Okay, yeah.
And they're really good movies. Like, again, these movies you put on in the background, you know, at a party, and you just have a go and I'll sit there and enjoy it, right? So The Mummy is a fresh take on the you know, because it's a 1999, almost 2000s version of the story, and it is more of an action-adventure style.
Yeah.
It's from the perspective of Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, who is the mum from Natasha Romanoff's mum in the new Black Widow movie, and her brother. And they find this map, and the map leads to the City of the Dead, which is this city that is, you know, in ancient Egypt history, it's said to exist, but, you know, no one's ever been able to find it. No one's ever been able to hear it.
It's a good treasure hunting movie.
It's a great treasure hunting movie. So they go there, they set up a team. These other Americans, they set up a team as well, and they get to this place, the Land of the Dead, right? The city of Anubis.
Oh,
okay.
He's the god of the dead.
And they get there, and there's all these weird things going on, and essentially they come across the mummy, who is Imhotep, who he was this original priest who he killed the pharaoh of the time, and you know he because the reason that happened was because the pharaoh's wife, no one else could touch her but Imhotep, and the Anaksunamun is her name. They had a relationship and they loved each other, but their love was forbidden. So because of that, he got this thing called the I actually can't remember what the thing the mummification that he got, but he got buried alive. And all that stuff happened. Like, he got mummified while he was still alive. So all the taking out of some of the organs, all those sorts of things, he was still alive while this was all happening. Oof. Now, because of that, he ended up putting this massive curse. Like, there's a curse associated with it, and whoever brings back this curse with him. Essentially, without realizing, they fall upon this, and being the treasure hunters that they are, they say, you know, we're gonna open this up, and we're gonna read from the scriptures. And of course, that brings back the mummy.
Oh, he reads something and that brings it back?
Yeah, Rachel Weisz's character.
She's going, monkey with a dog to the side. This is half a hangman.
You laugh, but that's like a scene in the movie. Like there's a bit where they're specifically...
Excuse me, Brendan, can you get my Rosetta Stone?
There's a bit where this guy's asking like what's this? And he's like trying to say, you know, a stork. And they're...
That's funny.
The reason, and that's all I'm going to explain, the fact that the mummy does come back, you know, titular. But the reason that I love this movie is I think characters are a very important part of any movie. But when a movie is able to create a wide variety of characters who are so rich in their own that they're characters that are memorable. So you have 15 characters and all of those characters are memorable for one reason or another. If you've got a movie in which you're able to do that, that's one of the greatest movies that you can create, because you've given all these people that watch it so many memories and so many reasons to come back. For example, you know, you've got your three main characters. They're amazing in their own right. But then you've got this dude who he was a guard at a jail. And he's come along because he's like, you know, I let Brendan Fraser out, who was meant to be hung. I let him out. So I'm going to get some of the treasure as well. His character, hilarious. There's this one character that pops up for a split second to try to steal the map away from them so they can't get to the City of the Dead. He's got a knife on his hand. Oh. He's in it for like 2 minutes max. That character you remember and you love things about him. The Imhotep and Anaksunamun, them as characters are... Imhotep himself is such a scary character, but also you're just like, this is just the suavest looking bald man I've ever seen. He's just walking around, you know, in robes, tattered robes sometimes, and he's built, he's a desirable man for Anaksunamun, but also other people, but he's also the most evil man on the planet. He barely says a word in this whole movie, but you're intimidated by him. You enjoy seeing him. You love when he's on screen. All these characters have their own reason why they're great, which is why I love it. The other reason is because it is an action-adventure movie. It is a treasure hunting movie. They're going to all these different places. I think as any kid is growing up, they love the idea of mummies, the idea of what Egypt was and what it looked like.
Because Egypt's just a fascinating place and a culture that is just so different to, I mean, a lot of obviously Western things, but just so different to a lot of the things that you know and you read about. It's just a wild place. And
it's a way that you can delve into the supernatural without making it feel scary. Like I feel for a lot of kids, you know, they talk about the underworld, they talk about all those sorts of things, but it is such a rich part of their culture that it's not a scary thing. Whereas, you know, you present that in a Western thing and they'll be like, oh, the underworld, there'll be, you know, Kate Beckinsale like versus werewolves, you know? Shout out the movie Underworld. I would say, and I have no backing for this is a far superior movie to any of the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, okay. Well,
now the Indiana Jones movies are great.
I love because that's when you're talking about this. I'm just thinking Indiana Jones. I'm just thinking some dude's getting his heart ripped out. You know, he's picking up his hat from the door.
Yeah, I think that what they did was they took what Indiana Jones. They took the ground that Indiana Jones set for them.
Yeah,
you know, the paving is all there, and they walked on that paving. They said, you know what? Let's continue this, but let's do it our own way.
Yeah.
And what that did was that brought Indiana Jones and the likes of those treasure hunting movies into what we see and love today. I think without this, you wouldn't be able to get characters like Nathan Drake in the Uncharted games. That's why I also think that the latest Indiana Jones movie that came out, the one with Shia LaBeouf and he's swinging with the monkeys, that's why that movie doesn't work. Because they try to stay on the same path as what Indiana Jones was. Yeah. And like, oh, maybe we'll put aliens in there. We'll make it a bit more fantastical.
Yeah,
it didn't work, but the Mummy kept on that line, but they added in their own little flavors to it.
Yeah, which was still believable in the scope of the world that they had created there.
Now, this is 1999. There is CGI effects in there, but the way that the CGI effects are implemented into the movie don't make them seem dated. This is a movie that is timeless. This is a movie that you could watch whenever you happen to, and you will enjoy it, not only for the story, but also for the practical effects that they use, even the CGI effects that they use. Like, for example, there's one time where Imhotep's chasing them, but Imhotep's a giant sand wall, and it's his face, and he's chasing after this plane. And even though it is CGI from 1999, it still works. It doesn't look janky.
Oh, that's good.
They don't rely on it too much.
Yeah.
Now, it did spawn 2 other movies. I would say that they weren't the best. Okay. They were still fine. Third one, definitely not.
Is that the Scorpion King one? Which one's the one with The Rock as the Scorpion dude?
Yeah, so that's in the second one.
Okay.
And also Scorpion King has his own movie as well.
Yeah, good on him.
Which is hilarious.
Don't do one for himself.
But I think that The Mummy is one of the greatest movies of all time, and also the greatest Brendan Fraser movie of all time.
All right. Oh, see, I reckon Journey to the Centre of the Earth is pretty top tier. I love that movie.
That's a good movie. That is a good movie. Much better than Journey to the Forbidden Island or whatever the Rock one was.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. You once you've watched Journey 1, you can't watch Journey 2.
Can't watch Journey 2.
Vincent, we're going to
that's it. Yeah, that's it for... Yeah, we're not going to take a break.
No, I was about to tell you to say your next one, but we're going to take a break in YouTube world, but we'll be back next week.
Or the week after.
For our top 2.
And,
plus a couple of
honorable mentions. Yeah. All right. So if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. It's a long video, but if you've got to the end, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So leave a comment if you've got to the end. If you've got to the end, just say I don't know, the crystal skull was aliens. So
something only you would know.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Talk soon.